12 News is your local election headquarters. Now, we continue our Where They Stand series on WPRI.com and our 12 Plus Smart TV app. I'm Ray Bakari. Joining me today is Republican Alex Asermely, who is running in the August 5th Senate District 4 special election. This special election was called after the death of the late Senate President Dominick Ruggerio in April. Asermely faces Democrat Stefano Famiglietti, who is a North Providence town councilman, and the district itself contains parts of North Providence and Providence. Alex, it's good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Ray. I really appreciate being on and the opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you.
For my first question, tell those watching a little bit about yourself and why you're running for state senate.
Sure. My name's Alex Asermely. I am running in the state senate special election this summer. And I've lived in the district my entire life, born and raised on Fruit Hill Avenue in North Providence, Rhode Island. And I've loved it my entire time being there. I lived there with my 5-year-old daughter, who was the light of my life. My dad still lives in the district, and in going out and introducing myself to my neighbors, constituents, hearing a lot of concerns, getting to chat with everyone, it's become immediately apparent to me that we have a great opportunity in front of us to preserve that wonderful community, to make it better for working families and those struggling to get by, for small businesses that are setting up roots in the district, to make it a place where they can grow and prosper and give back to our community. For our seniors, like my dad and the other 20%, of our district, we want to make it a place where they can retire safely, comfortably, happily, and really continue on all of our great stuff that's going on and improve it in areas where it needs to be improved so we can all live, work, prosper, and grow as it should be.
Now looking at some policy, one of the bigger bills that was passed this past legislative session was the ban on so-called assault-style weapons. Toward the end of the session, there was a debate between two versions. One version, which was by Rep. Knight in the House, banned possession, sale, creation, and buying of those weapons. Meanwhile, the Senate version banned everything but possession, and then that was the one that ultimately ended up being signed into law. Where did you stand in that conversation? Did you support or oppose either bills?
Well, Ray, I was opposed staunchly to both. I'm a conservative constitutionalist. I'm a practicing attorney. I've been a trial lawyer for 15 years, and so I look at it through the eyes of an attorney, number one, who has defended our constitutional rights and knows legally how important that is, how important it is for the individuals who we're protecting as well. And so I was opposed to the ban generally because I think it's unconstitutional, right? And 2A is important, our Second Amendment is important, but I also think it's a very slippery slope, right? So if we don't stand up and defend those constitutional rights, 2A and others, well, what's next? We can't lose freedom of speech, we can't lose freedom of the press, we can go on and on and on. But I think we'd see a real degradation of the town, right? If you take away those essential liberties and essential rights, you can't have it happen. So you see out and about the color yellow. You see the Gadsden flag associated a lot with the AWB and protecting 2A in particular. And I think it certainly is applicable to that. But I also am reminded of what that symbolizes, right? And that goes back 250 years to our American Revolution, right? And don't tread on me means don't tread on 2A and all of our civil liberties and rights that we're afforded. And I think it is critical today and moving forward. As I had said, I want a community that works for all of us, in protecting those values and those constitutional liberties is so critical. And I do think that the assault weapon ban, both versions and the one that passed, is ultimately unconstitutional. I think it will likely end up before the courts, and I think it probably will be struck down eventually, which really it would amount to another bureaucratic waste of resources in time, which I know we'll get into some other issues, which is really the crux of what I'm focused on here as well. But to answer the question, I am opposed to it, and ultimately I think it'll be struck down.
Speaking of those other topics we're going to talk about, let's talk about the state budget. If the assault weapons ban is a big bill in terms of the attention, the budget is the biggest bill in terms of the size and impact it has on the state. Lawmakers approved a budget of over $14 billion with a B. And I should just note for those watching, we're taping this post-session and before the August 5th primary. We're taping this in late July. So the situation with the budget in Rhode Island, usually year to year, there's that built-in deficit and the budget always increases. And this is a bit of a broader question, so I'll give you leeway with your answer. If you can give me one thing you would support to try and fix the budgetary situation and turn it into a different direction.
Ray, I think Rhode Island, our district included, but the state doesn't have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem, right? Our budget is bloated with waste, with fraud. It's unchecked. There's not enough oversight. There's not enough transparency. There's not enough authenticity. And our working families and our small businesses are drowning in it. We have 1.1 million people in Rhode Island, residents. Our state budget that recently passed is $14.3 billion. For comparison, New Hampshire has 1.4 million people. Their state budget is $15 billion. Now, at first glance, you may say, well, it's not a tremendous difference in population, not a tremendous difference, even though it's $1 billion in budget. But what people don't realize right away is New Hampshire's budget is for 2 years. Our budget here in Rhode Island is for 1 year. So how are we the smallest state with a $14.3 billion budget, basically double of a similar state like New Hampshire? And what does that tell me? Well, every day, people in our district, working families, sit down and they make hard choices about spending, about curbing, things that aren't necessities, about saving for the future. Why can't our local government do the same thing? And really, I would argue for our current generation, for our seniors who got us here, for our children, future generations, we can no longer burden our taxpayers with unchecked, unregulated waste and fraud. There are countless examples that we can give to turn to. Coming here today, I had to take the bridge. I live in North Providence, came to the studio, and I hope that is not a future reminder of some of the mistakes that we've made, right, in budgeting, in oversight, and in smart spending. We don't need big government. We need smart government, right? The state's UHIP system, for example, that was $650 million. So that was designed to streamline the benefits program, and candidly, it doesn't work, right? So over $500 million right there that could have went to our schools, to supporting small businesses, to helping families be able to plant their roots right here and to grow and prosper. And so I'm not talking about cutting essentials, right? So for example, 350,000 people in Rhode Island rely on Medicaid, right? Once again, I would look at something like that with an eye towards cutting fraud, cutting waste, streamlining what works, improving what doesn't, getting by a lot of the unnecessary bureaucracy, and helping people, right, keep those coverages that they need. Something like that is essential. As one example, there's a whole lot in the state that is not. I think it takes political courage to sit down and start from the bottom up and say what is being spent to benefit the people, the taxpayers, right? Who is owed those benefits, right? And what's being wasted? There are so many bloated positions in our state, jobs, just an incredible amount of waste in general. And so I think we really need to sit down with a keen eye, right, and with an honest eye, right? We've had a one-party system in this district for a long time. I read a tweet of yours a couple weeks ago that I believe mentioned the last Republican to hold this seat was Theodore R. Lowe, if I'm not mistaken, in 1969. We don't have.
I should interject. That was a mistaken list. So it was a House district. But continue. I just wanted to make sure to clarify that.
Even so, the seat had been held by Senator Ruggerio since 1985. Before him, his father-in-law held the seat. So it's been a long time since there's been another voice, and I want our community to know that there is another voice. These aren't the Kennedy Democrats anymore, right? We have progressive leadership in the House, and another progressive in office will vote in line with that progressive leadership. And we've gone on too long, too far, without the political courage for someone to stand up and say, if this doesn't make sense to spend for the people. I'm not just going to make the politically convenient choice. I'm not going to vote just in line with what party leaders tell me to do. I think we really need a lot of analysis, and we need someone to say, no, we need to look out for our current interests now and for the future. We can't just keep taking from the hardworking families that give to the state and our future generations. Otherwise, we won't have a system that works. And not just for the connected few, for everyone, so we can grow.
And just to put a pin in that part of it, while we're still talking about budget, although it's a small part of the district, Providence is still in the district. I know you and the councilman live in North Providence, but Providence had an interesting budget situation of their own. The mayor was asking the General Assembly lawmakers to approve allowing the city to raise its tax levy above the state mandated cap of 4%, but no higher than 8%. At the time of this taping, the budget has since been signed, and I think it was a little under 6% it ended up being for the levy. So just a two-parter here. First one, would you have supported or opposed that bill?
I would have opposed it. And I understand Mayor Smiley's predicament. But going along with what I had just said, with spending, with oversight, with regulation, I would have done everything in my power to try to find another way to accommodate what needed to be accommodated other than raising taxes above the cap.
And speaking of that, my second part, just so we can quickly get topic, what could the city have done differently, in your opinion, or if there was any other solution?
Well, I think, again, you start from the ground up, right? I would have zero issue with starting with essentially a zero balance, right? And I've heard the concerns of, right? Of course, we want to protect the things that everyone needs. I had mentioned things like healthcare, right? Health coverage. Of course, we want our seniors. Another example, we're one of 8 states that taxes Social Security. I don't think that's right for our seniors. 20% of our population in the district are seniors. They're struggling to survive, just like the working families, just like the small businesses. So I would really sit down and audit the entire budget, right? And start from that ground up. What do we need? What is waste? And I think in assessing everything, the totality, it was, again, the politically easy choice just to add on. Right? And how many times can we do it? Every couple of years we can't say, well, this one major issue came up. I guess we can't cut from the waste, from the fraud, from the other areas of need, because that may not be so politically popular. The easy thing to do is to just simply add to the budget. But there are consequences to that. And, someone like myself can speak to it included. I've been a trial attorney for 15 years. I love living in the district. And every day I get in my car and I have to make a 50-mile commute up 95 to the Boston area to work. That's the only way my young family can financially survive and still live in the place where I want to live and work. So I think the taxpayers are tired of hearing the excuses. I think the taxpayers want full accountability. They want full transparency. And I wouldn't be afraid to start from zero and really factor everything in. And I would do everything in my power to avoid another tax hike, because that's not fair. Right? And to that point as well, I think an inspector general would be a good idea, right? For nonpartisan reasons, both sides. I've pitched that, out and about canvassing in different discussion groups that I've had, and it's hard to argue against a pair of removed eyes, right? Whose sole job it is to protect the budget, right? To monitor what's happening, and to be there as a safeguard and a safety net. So that's just one idea that I would have. But basically, you have to get in there, roll up your sleeves, and figure out any way that we can stop taking from the people who feed us and give back to them.
And for my final question, this relates to the healthcare crisis our state's facing, because there's been some impacts even in the district. Fatima Hospital, which is located in Senate District 4, is having a tough situation. We've seen Anchor Medical shut down, community health centers in Providence shut down. I'll keep this one a bit broad as well. What would you support to address the healthcare crisis?
Number one, and this was another concern that I've heard quite often in the district, we have a problem with keeping and maintaining good doctors, good healthcare providers here. And that's something that should never happen. And so how do we address that? Number one, I think, again, I hate to harp on it, but it's so critical. You can't have fraud and waste, sabotaging systems that should work for people who need it, like Medicaid, right? That'll always be protected and preserved and improved, under someone like myself. I think another way we do it is you have to make this a hospitable state and district for providers in facilities like Fatima Hospital and good doctors. You have to make it a place where they want to come work. They're fairly compensated, right? They should be paid for the good work they do. And not have a situation where we're seeing droves of talent leave and we have a shortage of providers, people who need it. So I think, again, how do we do that? Well, a lot of deregulation needs to happen. We need to start with a lot more favorable taxes for businesses and corporations to provide those services. And we need to incentivize the talent, the people, right, who do it, right? So I want this to be an area where doctors are attracted to come live and work here. My sister, for example, is a nurse practitioner. She has worked over the line in Massachusetts her entire career. And like me, as a trial attorney, would love to come back home, set up roots here again, and work and live. That's very hard to do economically, for the reasons that I just said. So it's an area where that is a non-negotiable, right? That's a human interest right that everyone should have, access to quality, good care. And we need to figure that out. And again, another example of waste like the UHIP system. That was supposed to streamline and preserve benefits. It doesn't work. So I think we need to go into this election with fresh eyes, understand that I'm not part of the machine. I don't have a political connection or background, but what I do have is a passion for my community. I have a passion for my work as an attorney, especially a trial attorney. I know how to fight, and I stand my ground on my principles and what I believe in and what needs to be done. And I also know how to successfully negotiate. Sometimes you do need to reach across the aisle, and you do need to come up with pragmatic, real solutions for people. And so that's what I would do here.
That's all the questions I had, Alex. I want to thank you for coming down. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks so much, Ray. Really appreciate it again.
And
I want to remind the voters, too, August 5th, please come out. I would love your support, and thank you so much.
And thank you for watching this edition of Where They Stand on WPRI.com or the 12 Plus Smart TV app. As a reminder, 12 News is your local election headquarters, and we have the other interviews related to this specific special election on WPRI.com and the 12 Plus Smart TV app. For now, Ray Bakari, 12 News.